who Jesus Christ is more commensurate with the Muslim idea than it is with the Christian one.
I wouldn't say that they line up well with the Muslim view. I really do think Jesus was crucified and that he really was dead and buried.
I mean, how dumb can you be? Do you really think Erhman's going to go, wow, you're saying your book, blah, 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 blah. I guess I'll convert to Islam. How do I do it?
Most of them are misspelled words. It's like there are not variants in the New Testament that say Jesus didn't die, or that Jesus made clay pigeons, or that somebody else got crucified instead of Jesus. No, that's not what I'm talking about.
What's going on, everybody? It's your boy, the Scripture Plug.Albert. Today, I'm coming at y'all with another reaction. Now, today, I'm about to be a dude reacting to some dudes who reacting to some dudes, man. Because I had already seen and reacted to this video with Bart, Erhman, and Mohamad Hijab. But what I haven't seen was Brother David Wood and Brother Apostate Prophet reacting to this video. So I can't wait to see what these brothers got to say. Can y'all? Muslims' worst nightmares when your heroes like Bart, Erhman tell y'all that, man, y'all book is crazy, y'all book is nonsense, and it's just not accurate. So without further ado, let's get into it. Let's see what Brother David Wood and Brother Apostate Prophet are talking about in regards to the conversation that Mohamad Hijab and Bart Erhman had on the crucifixion. Let's get into it. Let's learn something.
Many Muslims feel that your conclusions or historical conclusions of who Jesus Christ is more commensurate with the Muslim idea than it is with the Christian one.
I wouldn't say that they line up well with the Muslim view. I really do think Jesus was crucified and that he really was dead and buried.
I mean, how dumb can you be? Do you really think Erhman's going to go, wow, you're saying your book, blah, 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 blah. I guess I'll convert to Islam. How do I do it? How do I do that, by the way? Oh, no problem, brother. You just recite this. Oh, okay. La ilaha illallah.
I really do think Jesus was crucified and that he really was dead and buried.
How much can we be sure about the crucifixion of Jesus and whether he was indeed crucified?
Right. I know in Islam, the teaching is that he was not actually crucified. I think on a historical basis, Jesus was absolutely crucified. I think that
historical basis, Jesus was absolutely crucified. That's why we worship Jesus. That's why, because not only was he crucified, he rose again. He rose again. God put on flesh, showed that death had no power over him, and then rose from his grave, showing that when it comes to where we put our faith and where we put our belief, he will do that for us as well, because we chose the gift, the free gift of God. That's what's going on here. So it completely goes against the Islamic narrative. They don't get nothing right. They don't get science right. They don't get history right. They don't get philosophy right. They don't nothing. Absolutely nothing. But one of the most attested to things, again, Bart Erhman is not a believer. He has no reason, absolutely none, to state or claim anything that the Christians have. Well, for that matter, even Islamic people, this is why I don't understand why Islamic people flock to him like, oh man, he says this about the Bible and this about the Bible. Well, this admission right here completely throws out anything that Islam has, because what it states in Islam is that Jesus wasn't crucified. Now, you'll get the Muslim folks that say, oh, well, that actually follows through because we believe that somebody was thought to be crucified. Okay, so somehow, some way, you believe that somebody was thought to be crucified. It wasn't Jesus. So then you believe that your God took a person who didn't have anything to do with these crimes and put him on the cross. But not only that, and crucified him, and not only that, you also would have to then believe that because of what Allah did, he caused more people to become apostates than anybody else, because for those of you who believe that Abraham and Adam and Jesus were Muslims, well, the view of Christianity comes from the death, burial, and resurrection of Jesus Christ. So your God made it to where all these billions of people now are no longer Muslims and they are Christians, who are the uppermost, which has a lot of other issues that go into that. But it's tough. It's tough. And we're only 57 seconds in, y'all. I can't wait till we get in the mode and see what else they're talking about.
There is, as a historian, there's almost no doubt about that.
Now, the Islamic perspective, that's where I bring my stuff in. Now, the Islamic perspective, as you know, is somebody was crucified on that day, but Jesus was not crucified. The Quran is very firm on this. Yeah. Jesus was definitely not crucified, but somebody was made to appear like him, and Jesus was raised to heaven instead. I would like to ask you, from a historical perspective, from the perspective of a historian who deals with these matters, what is the evidence for and against this, and how credible is such a narrative?
I would say there's no actual evidence for it. The one piece of evidence for it is a piece of evidence that no historian would accept, but I guess you would count it as evidence, apart from the Quran. So just bracketing the Quran itself. The Quran gets many of its stories, it doesn't tell that many stories about Jesus, but most of the stories about Jesus that it tells are had earlier been found in the early Christian tradition. And this one, the story about them crucifying someone else, is apparently was found in a gospel that was known in the 2nd century, that was written by a Christian Gnostic, a Gnostic, like a Christian heretic named Basilides. What Basilides said was that what happened.
This is what happens when you get a prophet who is illiterate, doesn't know how to read or write. This follows that this brother would hear these stories, these Gnostic stories that have been circulating for hundreds of years prior to Muhammad. He hears these things and he says, well, see, this is what we're going to rock with. This right here, this nonsense, even though it was already deemed by the church that, no, this ain't the case. And now when we get into this 21st century of 2025, and we see that no matter what historian you talk to, they all believe that, yeah, one of the most attested to thing is Jesus dying on the cross. So now, I won't say it's everybody because I don't know that to be true, but I do know, if I'm not mistaken, it's roughly about 90-something%. You know what I'm saying? 90% of historians will say that regardless of atheist, Muslim, Christian, Hindu, Buddha, whatever, Jesus was put on the cross and Jesus died.
Happened was Jesus was going to be crucified, and Simon of Cyrene was carrying his cross for him. This figure, Simon of Cyrene, is found in the New Testament. In Matthew, Mark, and Luke, it says that Simon carried his cross. And so, according to Basilides, what happened is when they got to the place of crucifixion, Jesus pulled a miracle, and he made Simon look just like him, and he took on the appearance of Simon. And so the Romans thought they were crucifying Jesus, but they crucified Simon. And Jesus stood by the cross in looking like Simon, laughing. Presumably Simon didn't think it was so funny. Here he is. He's been what? And so that's the only early Christian source for it. It's not, there's nobody who thinks that like there's actually evidence for anything, because we get these Gnostic gospels with all sorts of interesting crucifixion things. That just happens to be one of them. I think he thought that he was a son of God in the sense that he was specially chosen by God. I think Jesus really did think he was going to be the Messiah, the future king of Israel. I mean, that is, after all, why they crucified him. I think that that's historically right.
What about the word father? Abba, I believe that's it, right? Is that something that is historically verifiable, that was used by him?
Well, it's likely that he used it. So father is a different word. Abba is more like, Abba means father, but it's more like a term of endearment, more like daddy or something like that. And so I think he did use the term father as well. For example, in the Lord's Prayer, if he taught this prayer, which I imagine he did, our Father who's in heaven. But at times in prayer, or sometimes he would address God as Abba. And since that's not a common usage at the time in Judaism, it looks like it's something that he did, and it's used to express his kind of close relationship with God as the Son of God. I think that all of these gospel authors, I think all of them think that in some sense Jesus is God. I think that these earliest Christians, though, right after his death, believed that God had raised him from the dead and taken him up to heaven. And in the ancient views, whether it's Greek or Roman or Christian or Jewish, these ancient views, if somebody's taken up to heaven, they're living with God. They are made immortal, so they don't die again, unlike everyone else who dies again. An immortal is just another name for gods in ancient Greek. Jesus was made immortal, and I think that according to his followers, and so they started worshiping him. They didn't worship him as the one only God, but he was a being who deserved worship, and so they considered him.
Bang! So the ancient ways show that Jesus wasn't Muslim. The early followers weren't Muslims. That they were people that followed Christ. Though he's wrong, you know what I'm saying, when it comes to his view, because he's just an atheist. You know what I'm saying, he ain't getting it all the way right. But showing that when the Islamic folks run to brothers like him, he's quite literally poison to you. He's quite literally not helping your case. So Muslims who are watching this, I don't want in the comments y'all continuing to run to this brother no more. Anybody's comments, anybody's videos, because it's tough. It's bad. It's not good because he doesn't agree with you. But that's the thing though, ain't it? You'd be like, hey, yo, well, this is what Bart Erhman believes. Well, he's the Christian scholar. He's not no Islamic scholar. He's not no Muslim scholar. So it don't count. It don't matter. Trash. Cherry picking like crazy. But shout out to Mohamad Hijab, man. He's been one of the biggest Christian supporters that I can remember. His debate with David Wood, where he agreed that Muhammad prays, or excuse me, not Muhammad, Allah, but the one and the same. So Allah prays. And then he had the conversation with Yasir Qadi, where he shows that, there's holes in the narrative where the Qurans that you have now, they're not all the same, that they're different ones. Ugh. And now his interview with Bart Erhman, in which Bart Erhman is like, what y'all believe, it ain't good. Y'all shouldn't, because historically speaking, you're wrong. Man, that's tough, man. Mohamad Hijab, he's been doing his thing, for real. Mohamad Hijab's just been doing his thing where he's been showing and displaying how Christ is true, that Christians, what they believe is what they should be believing, what y'all should be believing. Let's get back to the video.
To be the Lord whom they worshipped. And I think that happened early on. But they understood that during his life, he was a human. Mm-hmm. They would not have agreed with most of the tenets of Islam that differ from Christianity.
Paul, I think, certainly had a vision of Jesus. He thought, by vision, I don't mean it's a hallucination. I mean he saw something, and either it was a hallucination, in other words, the thing wasn't there, or it really was Jesus. But either way, he saw something, and some of the earlier disciples did too. That's why they believed in the resurrection. They absolutely didn't believe because of an empty tomb. The New Testament is clear on this. They believed because they saw Jesus, and I think some of them absolutely saw. I doubt if all 11 did, but my guess is that a couple of them did. Maybe Peter, maybe Mary Magdalene. They're the ones who were first credited with seeing Jesus, and so I think they had some kind of visionary experience. And Christians would say, well, they saw Jesus, he appeared. And non-Christians would say, well, they had hallucinations. But either way, I think they saw something that convinced them that Jesus was raised, yes.
Okay, so I'm guessing that a lot of the debate's going to come down to whether we should take whatever those experiences were seriously.
I take them deadly seriously.
Oh, okay.
I think they saw something.
What about James? So you just go with the Gospels. Doesn't look like James had much confidence in his brother during that time, but later becomes an apostle. Yeah. So what's your perspective there?
I don't think we know. I think he certainly came to believe Jesus was raised from the dead, and so that.
I really just don't understand how this brother Bart Erhman is where he's at, and that just shows the power of the argumentation of the evidence of Christianity. He is basically agreeing to all the points of Dr. Gary Habermas's minimal facts argument, all the points that point towards the fact that there's a death, burial, and resurrection. Now, obviously, he still doesn't believe that because he is an atheist. If I'm not mistaken, he doesn't believe that because he just can't deal with the evil in the world, right? Or whatever. I don't remember, but I think that's what a lot of people, or even himself, has stated. Maybe I'm wrong on that. It is what it is. But the strength of the argumentation, the evidence points towards one thing, and that's the truth of the death, burial, and resurrection of Jesus Christ. That's what all the evidence points towards. Anything outside of that, you're showing that you really don't care about following the evidence to its conclusion. Let's get back to the video.
It's quite remarkable, whether you're a Christian or a non-Christian, that Jesus' own brother believed he got raised from the dead. Just think about that for a second. Think about your own siblings for a while. Wow, really? My siblings don't think I'm the son of God. I got to tell you that. And so something remarkable must have happened. It doesn't mean that necessarily he had a personal experience. Paul says he did. And Paul knew him. Which, by the way, throws a bit of a monkey wrench in the mythicist argument that Jesus didn't exist.
That's true.
Paul knows his brother.
Yeah.
If Jesus didn't exist, you would think his brother would know about it.
One of the issues is, as you know, Muslims generally believe that the text of the New Testament must have began in some stage where it was a book brought by Jesus. And so it's this book brought by Jesus, and then it later on gets corrupted into eventually the four Gospels we have now. But Muslims here, well, Bart Erhman talks about all these textual variants, hundreds of thousands of textual variants in the Gospels, and they think, just because I talk to them all the time, but they really think that there are all these different versions of the Gospels that say all these kinds of different things with different doctrines, and that somewhere in there there's material that agrees with them on what the Quran says, and then different Gospels elsewhere. And is that what you would get from textual criticism?
No, I tell you, it's not just Muslims, of course. The conservative evangelicals accuse me of say that I say things I just don't say. I just don't know if people can't read anymore or what. But when I talk about all these differences in the manuscripts, it's not a debated point. There are hundreds of thousands of differences. But I also say that most of them are completely immaterial and insignificant.
Man, this video is tough. If y'all not sub to the archive who clipped this, and also David Wood who had this interview, and also Apostate Prophet who had the other interview, and then obviously David Wood and Apostate Prophet coming together, watching the Mohamad Hijab video or interview, y'all need to, because this is bang. So the people that complain and cry about corruption, we got Bart Erhman who's saying that, Bart Erhman, who is the student of the late, great, no need to debate Bruce Metzger, GOAT, when it comes to biblical text and textual criticism. He learned from him. He's saying that, the changes ain't nothing. Doesn't change the fact of what the scriptures have always taught. Nothing. Yeah. There's some variations. There's variations in all ancient works. All of them. Even your Quran. Matter of fact, I got these two Qurans right here. Now, I'm kind of kidding a little bit, but not all the way kidding. We got this one right here. What's this? The Yusuf Ali right here. This Yusuf Ali doesn't read in the same way that this generous run from Usama Dakdak reads. No, because this one actually displays word for word translation. This one tries to hide things. This one's telling the truth. There's also myriads. And by myriads, I mean like 26 or 33 or however many Arabic Qurans that get things different, that get prayer different, that changes things, that make it to where if you don't do certain things, you really may not be a Muslim if you're reading this particular one. So, the truth is painful when you ain't got it.
Most of them are misspelled words. It's like there are not variants in the New Testament that say Jesus didn't die, or that Jesus made clay pigeons, or that somebody else got crucified instead of Jesus. No, that's not what I'm talking about. And so they read into what I say, what I don't say, and it's very frustrating.
The goal seems to be, let's interview some guys who don't know a lot about Islam, so we can say whatever we want. And we can use them help them be our kind of megaphone to reach their fans with all this stuff about Islam, and they're not going to know enough to correct it. And so, hey, let's see if we can get an interview with Bart Erhman. He doesn't know a lot about Islam. Let's see if we can get an interview with Jordan Peterson. Let's see if we can get interviews with these guys, and that way we can deceive. It's this race. Can we deceive people faster than other people can correct all the lies?
Yo, so that was Apostate Prophet and David Wood breaking down how when it comes to Islamic people trying to source out their beliefs to Bart Erhman, it doesn't work because he completely debunks and shows the Islamic narrative to be trash and not true and not accurate at all. With that being said, if you watched up to this point, I appreciate you so very much. God bless you. If you want to continue on rocking out with your boy, it seems like YouTube is saying, hey, yo, check out this one. So go ahead on, check this one out. Catch y'all next time. It's your boy. I'm out.